I'm Brad Smith. I'm one of the co-authors of Voting Rights and Election Law. I teach election law at Capital University. I was formerly chairman of the Federal Election Commission. And my co-authors on the book are Michael Solimene of the University of Cincinnati and Michael Domino of Widener University. We decided to write this book, and I have to say Michael Domino motivated me to write this book. He was our driving force. But Michael and I talked about it, and what we realized was that there had been no new election law casebook in well over a decade, about 15 years almost. And the casebooks, therefore, had a couple of issues in our minds. One was that they were kind of locked into a pre-2000 structure. And as most people recall, in 2000, the whole nature of studying election law changed substantially from a little bit about the Voting Rights Act and campaign finance to much more about election administration and vote counting and ballot control and so on. And the structure of the books needed to change. But you know, you get locked into a structure and you do revised editions, and it's hard to break out of that. We also felt that too many of the books, although we'd use them and they're good products, we felt that they were too heavily oriented toward political science literature. And we found both A, that the students weren't interested in that, they didn't want to read it, and B, that in the end, we felt it was more important to let the court speak for itself. So our book has a lot less from secondary sources and a lot more primary source material. We let the courts speak for themselves and talk about their view of election law. It may not be what the political scientists think, it may not be how they think it ought to work, but we think that's the best way to structure the casebook. We think one of the things that's unique about our book is, as I mentioned, we place more of an emphasis on letting the courts speak for themselves, but we also place more of an emphasis on the practical elements of election law. That is, what it's like to be a practicing lawyer in the field and how the enforcement process actually works. I think this reflects my own experience as a former federal election commissioner, the experience of my co-authors, in particular Michael Solimene, who's done a lot of work on judicial elections in Ohio with the bar. And so I think there's a little bit more of a sort of a here's how you do it approach to the book than you might find in some of the others on the market. Skills training is a big issue in law schools now. Lawyers want to hire students who they feel have skills, but we have to remember that skills is not just learning how to do particular tasks, it's learning how to reason the judgment, how to persuade courts. We do that again in part by letting the judges speak more for themselves so that the students realize this is what the judges are doing, here's what they're thinking, here's how I deal with them. We also do a lot of problems in the book, and those are drawn from our experience as practical attorneys who have all worked in the area, so that I think they have a real feel that the students appreciate rather than that sense of being a sort of a law exam hypothetical. We try to keep things real, and I think when the students eventually do go out and practice, they recognize that. One of the things we did in designing the book was try to create it in such a way that it's not something you have to do start to finish. In other words, if you can do chapter 8 if you haven't done chapter 7, so to speak, and it's pretty easy to do in that way. As such, the book can be used in a lot of different ways. It is a thick book. We probably need to slim it down when we get to future editions, but part of the reason it's thick is because it's got enough there that you can use it to just do a seminar, for example, on campaign finance, or a seminar on voting rights. And what we try to do in the teacher's manual is also help the professor who wants to use it more completely for a general election law course to think about what can be cut out, what cases are not so important. So the book has a lot of different uses that way and can be taught in almost any order that a professor would want to take it up in. It can be used for a two-credit class, a three-credit class, and again, it can be used for something that is very more narrowly focused, like a seminar on voting rights. Of course, the book comes with a teacher's manual, which we update regularly. The teacher's manual, in doing that, we tried there to put into action a lot of the political science background with which some law professors would not be familiar. And so that's something extra that the law professors can bring to the table rather than asking the students to read some of these long excerpts that, again, we found students aren't terribly interested in. We also try to include helpful teaching tips in there, suggestions. Here's how we've approached the material and find it works or doesn't work. Here's how you can get students talking about an issue. So we've tried to make it something that is really helpful to the professor, both in the professor who may not really know all the background literature, fill out their knowledge a bit, but also first-time teachers and even experienced teachers say, here's ways that you might approach this that you haven't thought of or might not otherwise think of, and get some discussion going. We also have, by the way, I should add, we also have an email list which is devoted to sort of pedagogy surrounding teaching of election law generally, and our book in particular. And if you adopt the book, you just send me an email. I'll make sure you get added to that list, and we'll get you on board. There can be discussion there. And within that list, people can share syllabus or syllabi. People can share exam questions. We take questions that folks have about ideas for teaching, or comments people have about ideas for teaching. So that resource is there too. And it's a nice list because it doesn't get a lot of traffic. It gets very high quality traffic that's directly relevant to you as a law professor. We've tried to keep it so it doesn't go off into the sort of political debates about these issues, but just how do we teach this material effectively to our students? The book is available in traditional hard copy. It's available as a loose leaf, which can save your students considerable money and a lot of professors find very handy. And it is available as an ebook. I know that not all of the other election law books out there are available as ebooks. I'm not sure if any of them are, but I know ours is, and that may be a plus, especially as students are looking more and more for both the cost savings and they get used to working with ebooks from their Kindle and Nook and so on. Well, the book, again, is Voting Rights in Election Law. It's by Michael Domino of Widener, Michael Solomine of Cincinnati, and myself. I'm Brad Smith at Capital University. We enjoy teaching election law. It's a fun subject. If you have any questions about the book, you're considering adopting it, or you've adopted it, give us a call. You can contact us by phone or email at our respective institutions. We're happy to talk with people, especially people who've never taught the course before, share syllabi, share exam questions. Teaching election law in this day and age is a real treat. It's great fun, and if you get a chance to do it, we hope you'll use Voting Rights in Election Law.